Have you ever caught your cat staring at absolutely nothing? No movement, no sound, just locked in. Eyes wide, ears twitching like they're tuned into a frequency you don't have access to. Maybe they suddenly track something across the wall, or bolt out of the room like they just witnessed something deeply offensive. And you're left sitting there thinking, okay, what exactly did you just see? Now, here's where it gets a little uncomfortable. Because what if it's not nothing? What if your cat really is seeing or hearing something you can't? Something just outside your range. Sounds a little dramatic, right? But stay with me, because once you understand how your cat experiences the world, those random moments start to feel a lot less random, and a lot more like you've been missing half the story this whole time. 1. The invisible soundtrack. Let's start with something simple, but kind of mind-bending. Your cat is living in a completely different sound world than you are. Think about this for a second. Humans hear up to around 20,000 hertz. Cats? They can hear frequencies up to 64,000 hertz. That means there are entire layers of sound happening around you right now that your cat is picking up and you're completely unaware of. Electrical wiring humming behind your walls, tiny movements of insects, even the faint ultrasonic chirps of rodents, if they're anywhere nearby. So when your cat suddenly perks up, ears rotating like satellite dishes, and stares into the distance like they just got a message from another dimension, they didn't. They just heard something very real that you physically cannot detect. And here's the interesting part. Sometimes they don't just hear it, they track it, which leads to the next thing that feels even stranger. 2. Seeing movement you can't even register. Have you ever seen your cat follow something across the room that you swear isn't there? Their head moves slowly, eyes locked, maybe a little crouch, then nothing. It disappears. Here's what's actually happening. Cats are incredibly sensitive to tiny movements. We're talking micro movements, subtle shifts in light, dust particles catching a beam of sunlight, a small insect you didn't even notice existed. Their vision is designed for motion detection, not detail. So while you're focused on objects, your cat is focused on change. Anything that moves, even slightly, gets flagged. That invisible thing drifting across your wall, there's a good chance it was real. Just too small or too subtle for your brain to bother processing. And once you realize that, another behavior starts to make a lot more sense, because sometimes your cat isn't just watching something, they're reacting to it. 3. The midnight zoomies aren't random. Let's talk about that moment. It's late, quiet, everything's calm. And then suddenly, your cat launches across the room like they just remembered an urgent appointment. Full sprint, sharp turns, maybe a dramatic leap off furniture for no clear reason. Looks chaotic, feels chaotic, but it's not. Here's what's happening behind the scenes. At night, your home becomes quieter, which makes subtle sounds stand out more. Tiny scratches in the walls, movement in ceilings, air shifts, distant noises traveling farther in silence. Your cat is picking up all of it, and their brain is going, something moved, investigate, immediately. So those random zoomies, they're often triggered by real stimuli, just below your awareness threshold. Now here's where it gets a little more subtle, because sometimes your cat reacts without anything obvious happening at all. 4. The empty space fixation. This is the one that makes people uncomfortable. Your cat sits still, staring at a corner, for way longer than feels normal. No blinking, no distraction, just watching. And if you've ever slowly turned to look at that same spot, yeah, nothing there. So what's going on? A few things could be happening. First, light reflections. Tiny flickers from screens, windows, or reflective surfaces can create movement patterns you barely notice, but your cat sees clearly. Second, sound direction. Cats can pinpoint where a sound is coming from with incredible accuracy. So even if the source is hidden, inside a wall, behind furniture, they'll lock onto the location. But there's one more layer most people don't think about. Cats don't need confirmation. If they detect something once, they'll monitor that spot, just in case it happens again. Which means your cat isn't staring at nothing. They're waiting for something that already made sense to them once. And that patience, that's part of what makes them such effective hunters, which leads into something even more fascinating. 5. They can sense things before you do. Have you ever noticed your cat reacting before something happens? Like getting alert before a loud noise, or moving away right before something falls, or suddenly leaving a room moments before something changes. It feels almost predictive, like they knew. But it's not prediction, it's sensitivity. Cats pick up on subtle environmental shifts, changes in air pressure, low frequency vibrations, distant sounds approaching, things your brain filters out because they're not immediately useful. But your cat? Their system is built to notice everything. So by the time something becomes obvious to you, your cat has already processed it seconds earlier. Now think about that for a second. How many weird behaviors suddenly become logical if your cat is just reacting earlier than you? And this is where things get really interesting, because not everything your cat detects is physical in the obvious sense. 6. Routine breaks you didn't notice. Sometimes your cat reacts, not to something new, but to something that's missing. A usual sound that didn't happen, a pattern that changed slightly, a routine that shifted just enough. Cats are pattern experts. They don't track time the way we do. They track sequences. So if something in their environment feels off, even slightly, they notice. And that can lead to behaviors like suddenly scanning the room, becoming alert for no visible reason, moving to a different spot. Because to them, something changed, even if you didn't catch it. And once you see your cat this way, observing patterns, tracking subtle signals, reacting to a version of reality that's richer than yours, it kind of reframes everything. If you've ever caught yourself trying to figure out what your cat is thinking, yeah, this is your kind of place. Because the truth is, your cat isn't being mysterious. They're just tuned differently. So remember that moment at the beginning. Your cat staring into space, like they're watching something you can't see? That moment isn't eerie. It's not random. And no, your house isn't secretly haunted. Your cat is just experiencing layers of the world you don't notice. Sounds you can't hear. Movements you don't catch. Patterns your brain filters out. From their perspective, they're not reacting to nothing. They're reacting to information. And once you see it that way, those strange moments start to make a lot more sense. All right, I should probably go check why my cat just locked onto something in the corner that apparently only exists in his version of reality. FurEver.